Black box games. Now what the hell are these, Dre? Well, gather round, children, and let me explain. The NES was released in North America in 1985, and among the first games released on the platform were the black box games, all of which Nintendo had at least a hand in making. They were all released between the years of 1985 and 1987 in North America, and all bore the same cover layout. This simplistic setup included a black box decorated with in-game sprites, and the title of the game below it with the same font on each. Also on the cover was a series category that outlined what type of game you're going to be playing, which included action, programmable, arcade, sports, light gun, and rob type game, as well as a Nintendo seal of quality, which wasn't indicative of actual quality to be fair. These games were often simplistic to entice even the most casual of consumers, and showed them that the Atari 2600 and friends didn't completely kill the video game market. But just being simplistic doesn't mean they weren't fun, and today, I'm here to show you the games that you should play nowadays. Heads up, I won't be including the light gun or rob games, since those require extra accessories and can't be played without them. Though I don't think either of the rob games would make the cut, ironically enough. In no particular order, here are 10 NES black box games you should play. Shaolin Style. Now in 8 bits on your NES hardware, Kung Fu was released in 1985 by Nintendo, a port of the popular Kung Fu Master arcade game. You control Thomas in pursuit of his love interest Sylvia, who has been kidnapped by the villainous Mr. X. Thomas must scale the Devil's Temple, a 5-floor arena that functions as levels that all have a different boss at the end, who must be defeated before moving on to the next. On each floor, you are presented with a flood of different enemies that you must either defeat or avoid before they drain Thomas's life bar, which will cost you a life every time it's empty. Thomas can attack either by punching or kicking, with punching doing more damage and giving you more points, but kicking giving you more range, both of which you can do while jumping or crouching to catch certain hard-to-reach enemies. The game is very simple, but its simplicity is actually to its benefit, as while it is difficult, it doesn't require much planning or effort to get into. This game is one of the first instances of the beat-em-up genre, with its fast-paced action providing so much entertainment in such an early game. This game was so influential that it was partial inspiration for the original Super Mario Bros., which may or may not be discussed later. It may be a short experience, but is absolutely one that you can spare some time for. The NES was home to a variety of sports games that, as opposed to future games that are sponsored or based on specific persons or organizations, are simply that sport. Like, who cares about the latest Tiger Woods release when you can play the glorious majesty known as golf? Golf was released in 1985 by HAL Laboratory and Nintendo. A very basic sports game, golf just does exactly what is advertised, let you play golf on a variety of courses. You might be confused why I'm including it if it was a bare basic golf game, but hang on, this game is really advanced for the time. For one, you can play stroke play by yourself or bring along a friend for the ride. Second, would you believe me if this is the first golf game that had a power meter and accuracy bar? These features have basically been adapted into most golf games since then, so it's wild that this game is where it originated. You also have your choice in clubs that you can use, which affect how far you can hit the ball and how accurate you need to be to get your preferred shot. And there you go, that's golf in a nutshell. But what starts out feeling like a bare-bones sports game is actually more in-depth the more you get into it. As you get a feel for what each of the clubs can do in their usage, you can shoot for lower and lower strokes on familiar courses. While limited, golf is still the best-selling sports game on NES and is worth the acclaim, though it didn't have much competition. I mean, who would rather play volleyball or 10-yard fight over this? Does pro wrestling count as a sports title? I guess technically not, but screw it, it's a sport in my book. Yeah, pro wrestling was released on the NES in 1987 by Nintendo. Technically, it was the third pro wrestling game on the console, but the first two were awful, so we just conveniently forget about those. Anyway, you have your choice of 6 pro wrestlers who are from various backgrounds and have various gimmicks, like the ever so famous Starman. Bell rings, and you are faced one-on-one with another wrestler that you can punch, kick, or lock up with for a slam. Each wrestler has different moves that they can do when they lock up depending on the direction pushed, so it's worth playing them all to see the differences. Wrestlers can also jump off the top rope and throw their opponent out the ring for some extra spice, though unless you want to get disqualified, you probably want to find your way back into the ring. To win, you must keep your opponent pinned for the 3 count, at which you move on to the next wrestler until you win the championship. Then it's time to defend your belt. Pro wrestling is another simple yet fun as hell game to play. Popeye, and whether playing it alone or with a friend, it holds up as a classic on the system. Even some menile things like the cameraman or commentators are included in this game, even though they don't affect gameplay, just to get into the wrestling spirit. Such attention to detail really outlines how great this game really shines, even with a limited appeal. You might be spoiled by your 2Ks or your Fight Forevers, but I still recognize my classics just like this. Out of all the Donkey Kong games to be featured on NES, would you be surprised that Junior stands above them all? I mean, 1 is a classic, 3 is sorta kinda underrated, and who the hell is still playing Donkey Kong Math? But yeah, the second game is definitely the breakout star. Donkey Kong Jr. was released in 1986 by Nintendo and was one of the launch games in Japan after being ported from the initial arcade release. As opposed to the previous game, you were Donkey Kong Jr. in pursuit of your imprisoned father from that dastardly Mario over 4 levels. You must jump and climb vines, avoiding enemies and platforming obstacles in order to reach a key that will be used at the final level, at which you free your gorilla Popeye, then start over at a harder difficulty. As opposed to jumping over barrels and climbing ladders, DK Jr. will need to climb and slide down vines and ropes and make his way around avoiding any monsters coming unless he knocks some fruit into him. This one-note premise hides a really enjoyable game that's a step up from the previous entry and is a 1-to-1 port from the arcade. While the game is short like most arcade-like entries on NES, it's worth playing just to see how high your high score will reach. Fun fact, my high score is better than yours. Don't look it up to compare, just take it as a fact. If extreme sports are more your favor, then maybe this game can satisfy your craving. Excitebike was released in 1985 by Nintendo, and something new for a change, was ported from the console to arcades instead of the usual opposite, funnily enough. In this game, you control a motocross racer across 5 different racetracks, either by yourself or with other racers riding alongside you. Your goal is, naturally, to crack the top 3 times on the track before you move on to the next. Driving is pretty simple. Think of it as a side-scrolling game, but a racer on top of it. You accelerate through the track, shifting through lanes and riding on obstacles such as ramps, gaps, and other things, trying not to lose speed or crash. You have the ability to use turbo to accelerate even faster, but if you hold it for too long or miss the speed arrows on the track, your bike overheats, which causes you to waste precious time. The game is a lot of fun, with driving and attempting to keep your bike upright through the air requiring skill. Attempting to get the best time on each of the courses is a great challenge, and once you do, you have the next level to take on. And even when you perfect all of the courses, you aren't done, as this game adds in a course design mode, which allows you to make your own driving courses with obstacles for you to try as well. Such a simple addition allows you to extend your playtime on this game, which really only adds to its favor. If you never played Excitebike in your life, I highly recommend you give it a try. Its addictive gameplay model will have you trying each course again and again, and once you do that, then it's time to make your own terroristic maps. When such a game can still attract a decent audience years after it's released, you know it's an absolute gem. Yeah, I'm including a pinball game on this list. What are you gonna do about it? Challenge me to fight in the YouTube comments? Well, bring it on. I'll get my mom to bring me to the playground and we can duke it out. It's a fun game and one that definitely deserves to be highlighted. Pinball was released in 1985 by Nintendo and HAL Laboratory. If you want to know the story, well, it's pinball. You control 2 flippers in the middle point and bottom of the tables, and your job is to score as many points as possible while keeping the ball inside the course. You score points by hitting the various obstacles in the map, and you lose when your ball drops 3 times at the bottom of the map unless you score extra chances. If you played one pinball game, you pretty much get the gist of them all, bearing some extra pleasantries and set dressing. But don't let that stop you from putting in time in this one. This pinball table consists of 2 sections, a top screen and bottom screen, where if the ball falls on the top screen, it goes to the bottom, that has its own obstacles and ways to score points. The variety will keep you playing and have you trying to hit everything to see what the table has to offer without losing. Maybe you can flip all the cards to get a bonus. Maybe you can hatch all the eggs at the same time to get helpful barriers. Maybe you can reach a bonus screen with a breakout type game to free Pauline. All of it is dependent on your pinball skill, but even for a casual person, this game is absolutely worth playing. It might not be as in-depth as other tables, but for an early NES game, it works especially well. Pinball is just the sort of experience you can use to distract yourself anytime you decide to try it out. You've probably seen something from this game before, whether it be by references in Super Smash Bros. Or WarioWare, but have you actually played it? Balloon Fight was released in 1986 by Nintendo and HAL Laboratory. If you are familiar with the arcade game Joust, Balloon Fight is the same principle. You control the balloon fighter as he goes from level to level, popping all of his opponent's balloons by landing on them and sending them to their doom. But beware, the enemies can also pop your balloons if they manage to get above you, and if both your balloons are popped, you will also get sent straight to hell. You also have to worry about the water down below, the large fish that will eat you, and lightning, so be on your guard always. Your goal is to eliminate all the other balloon fighters, then move on to the next level and repeat. Besides this main mode, you also have the Balloon Trip mode, which is a side-scrolling adventure where you must avoid all of the lightning and water as you seek to pop all of the balloons in the air and rise through the ranks. Both of these game modes are entertaining in their own right, but together they form a great combination package that is absolutely fun. Seeking a high score whether by yourself or with a second player has all the markings of a great arcade game at home. You'll find yourself playing this over and over as you complain yet again to computer cheating as you fall into the water. Balloon Fight is a classic that I'm shocked Nintendo hasn't brought back up for a reboot one of these years. Oh crap, it's a game based upon a licensed property. Everyone scatter! We've gone through this before. You won't trick us again. Wait, dare I say this game is good? Well, alright then. Popeye was released in 1986 by Nintendo and was one of the launch games on the Famicom in Japan. You control your favorite Sailor Man as the goal of each level is to collect all of the pickups dropped by Olive Oil, all while avoiding Bluto being a bastard coming after you. Popeye cannot jump, instead relying on stairs and ladders to get around a single screen level. He is able to punch, but only on small enemies and objects littered around the level. As always, Popeye cannot do anything to Bluto until he gets his spinach, at which point he turns into an invincible badass, taking care of Bluto for at least a few seconds. Once you gather all of the dropped pickups, you move on to the next level. There are 3 levels, after which you replay some of the levels on a harder difficulty. Simple enough, but oddly addicting like some of the other games on the list in the quest for points. The port doesn't match up graphically, but retains all of the fun gameplay you would expect by now out of a Nintendo-made game. Popeye is one of the few games made by Nintendo that are based on an actual intellectual property, and probably one of the last. And hey, it also counts as a good adaptation of a property, so maybe now we can forget about E.T. Now, if you didn't immediately think this game was going to be on this list, you need to look inward. The most famous of the black box games and the jewel of the platforming genre, this game is the launching pad of the Mario franchise to its unstoppable juggernaut status today. Super Mario Bros. Was released in 1985 by Nintendo. You already know how this goes, but I'll pretend you just got released from a 50-year prison sentence. You are Mario or Luigi of the famous Mario Bros. On the quest to save Princess Toadstool from King Koopa. You do that by going through level after level, jumping on various enemies, collecting coins and power-ups that give Mario an advantage over his spiky obstacles, and reaching the flagpole at the end. Such a simple explanation doesn't even begin to explain how good this game actually is. The controls in particular make this game a breeze to be able to control your speed and jump height, especially working well with hitting blocks and avoiding enemies. The game also throws in curveballs to prevent monotony by adding in water levels, alternating paths, and even secret warps. Between the gameplay, the graphics, the music, and the ultimate legacy of the Mario franchise, Super Mario Bros. Establishes so many standards that the side-scrolling genre still employs. If not for this game, who says Nintendo stays around to this very day overcharging for consoles and games? It might seem crazy to think about now, but the whole company's legacy exploded from one plumber in overalls throwing a spiky turtle into lava. Now, do you remember this game? Out of all the black box games, have you even heard this game mentioned amongst the Donkey Kongs or Duck Hunts? It's not likely, and because of that, I'll highlight it here because it hides an absolutely bonkers amount of content. Mach Rider was released in 1986 by Nintendo and HAL Laboratory. You are the Mach Rider in the year 2112, and the Earth has been taken over by the Quad Runners, these evil motorbikes and vehicles who are trying to get you off the road. Your goal is to drive your super bike to the end of each course, firing your machine gun to take out obstacles and enemies in your way, while making sure to not run out of energy, time, or lives depending on the game mode. Now, while that sounds awesome, let me clarify something. This game is difficult. like really difficult. You must get a firm grasp on the manual stick shift speed to even have a chance of winning, as more often than not, an enemy will come up from behind and blow you up if you aren't in the highest gear. Then, even at the highest speed, you have to have quick reflexes to keep your superbike on the road without hitting something and spiraling out of control. And then, you have to worry about the requirements of the level in finishing, and I can see why this game doesn't get as much acclaim as the other games released during this era. However, I will argue that this game more than balances the frustration with the amount of stuff to do. Besides the main game mode, which consists of 10 levels of multiple paths that can be taken, you can do an endurance course, which is basically a simple race to drive a certain amount of kilometers in a certain amount of time, whether with other racers or alone. And if you aren't satisfied with that, you can design your own courses, sort of like Excitebike. All of this leads me to say, if you haven't played this game yet, I recommend trying it out. It may be difficult to get the hang of, but I argue it's worth getting good and experience this underrated black box motorbike game. Have any other of the Black Box series that I should have highlighted? Leave them in the comments below. You can follow me at Sleepyhead Dre on all social media sites, and you should join a Discord. Link is in the description. Have a good one, and see you next time.